Hello and good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world today. You're very welcome to the latest monthly release of Enterprise, and as always, always getting better. So you're very, very welcome. Just giving everybody a chance to join us there. I see there's a few more participants still coming in. So we'll just give that another few seconds, and I'll certainly just get my screen prepared with this month's presentation, and then we'll be able to kick off. Super. Brilliant. Okay, that's great. More participants just joining me there as well, so you're very, very welcome. As always, here we are a month later after the last release, and as always, February has brought in some wonderful new features to bring you even more value to the platform. As always, the update was released seamlessly on Monday morning. When you logged into the system, the update was already in place, and that's our Artemis release. And of course, if there's anything that you missed out on in terms of information, I will, as always, remind you of where to access that information at the end of the presentation. So starting off, what we'll do is we'll take a look at a few of the key features that were released. And as always, I'll have a deep dive into a live demonstration of what they look like, how you can start to use them from today going forward. So let's take a look here at the very first big feature that was released this week, which is our track quantity by bins. Currently at the moment, in terms of warehouse management within the system and being able to store stock in different locations, but primarily in bin locations, has been done to date on a single basis. That is, you have an item within warehouse, within your main warehouse, and it resides in one single bin, for example. With this extended functionality for the track quantity by bins, you'll be able to store and define multiple bin locations per warehouse, but you'll be able to track the inventory quantities at that bin level. So currently at the moment you're tracking quantities by warehouse, but you'll be able to take a deeper dive into the bin itself to see exactly what stock resides at that bin level. Not only that, we've also extended that to include the likes of zones and sequencing, which of course will speed up processing such as picking and fulfillment directly in the warehouse itself. The ability to define the zones and sequencing is something that you can manage. Obviously, all the coding that you store within the system around the bin codes and around the zones and around the sequence numbers are something that you can adhere to your own organization needs and whatever way that you have defined those in terms of numerical or alphanumerical. So whatever way that needs to be set up to make it visible and easy for you to maintain going forward. So the screen I'm showing you there at the moment, this is actually the screen that is available within module settings. So that's in the settings menu and in module settings. This is something that you cannot currently switch on yourselves. So at the moment, if you are using bin locations, you will see the track quantity by warehouse is the one that's selected for your bin setup at present. So if this is something that you want to have a conversation around, you will have to reach out to us directly, and we're obviously more than welcome to welcome that conversation. So reaching out to your account manager or even through the chat on support, and we can direct you from there. So what does this mean that if we're now managing stock at bin level, obviously that gives you full visibility within our WMS integration. So across all the locations within the WMS, you can manage all the receipts, the putaways, the picking, and obviously create the respective deliveries from those picked orders, all within the WMS application itself. So all within the handhelds, you get to manage all the movements of the stock, but at all times knowing where that stock resides and in exactly what bin it resides as well. Just to show you here what I mean by that, of course, on the website of things, we have a bin report. This is something that if you are currently using the single bin situation with storing the quantity by warehouse, you'll be able to see where stock resides currently within that warehouse and what bin that's been allocated to through the bin report. This is the bin report that you can see in the items menu. And Just to bring it down to another level, just to give you some idea here. So what I've done here is I have set a filter here on the item code to look at a specific item code. And you can see there that item code 3 or item 3 resides in warehouse 1, but I can see that it also resides within 3 bins within warehouse 1. Now you can see it's a little bit out of view there, but I will show it to you again, where you can see the exact quantity within each of those bins within that warehouse location. So just another level of visibility of your stock and being able to manage that better and further within the WMS itself. So next up, we have service calls. So on the service calls, what we've introduced here is basically the ability to create a follow-up service call. And the basis for this really is that you might have, for example, as you know, you can define service calls that are recurring, which might be a recurring maintenance. So this might be something that might recur on a monthly basis, quarterly, half yearly, whatever way you've set that within the system. So what if, for example, today you record a service call, a bit like ourselves when we're taking in service calls from yourself and we're recording that information. And I want to make sure that I follow up in relation to that particular service call, perhaps in a month or 2 months' time. So we've resolved the problem today. We've closed out today's service call, but I do want to make sure maybe that somebody calls out on site or that does a whole follow-up or whole follow-through on an existing service call. And again, it's all improvement around the services that you provide and ensuring that nothing slips through. So with the follow-up service call, I can go into the original service call itself, click on the Actions menu. I then have an option here for follow-up call, which basically takes all of the information on the existing service call, just the basic information, the master information at the top, copies that through to a new service call. I can, of course, update the subject if I want to update that information. But another key piece, what it does then is it links the 2 service calls. So now I have my original service call and the follow-up service call. And you'll also see there on your Actions menu another option called See Follow-up Map. So this acts exactly the same as it does in sales transactions and purchase transactions. It gives you a relationship map. So I can see the relationship from one service call through to another. So the original call with the follow-up link to that. And of course, if I create any additional follow-up calls from that as well. So just another way of tracing and tracking all of the services that you provide and ensuring that if for any reason a service call has been closed out and you want to follow that up in the future, and maybe it's a few months down the line or a few weeks down the line, that you can create that service call in advance right now today and maybe schedule that specifically for your technician or engineer to ensure that that's been followed up in a timely manner. Again, I'll show you that in the live demonstration, how easy it is to do that and follow it through. So whether you do that from an open service call or a closed service call, it works exactly the same. Next up, we have read-only transactions. So really what we're doing here is de-risking accidental edits with giving you the read-only option. So this is something that you set at user level. And this is applicable to sales and purchase transactions. So I've given you the screen there, as you can see, is just the sales settings for a user under user settings, and also applicable to incoming and outgoing payments. So what does it mean? What does it mean if I have a sales quote that I have switched on for a user, but now I've switched on read only? Well, basically what that means is that they can see the sales quotes, their ones. And of course, it depends on if my or all is switched on again at user settings, how much information that they see. But the read only basically means that they cannot add a new sales quote or edit an existing one. They can only read the quote on screen and of course download the PDF if necessary. So that's if somebody has access to all transactions, it would be my transactions and anybody else's transactions that they only get to read them on screen and view the information without basically making any changes or creating a new transaction. If somebody is already restricted to my transactions only and you've switched on read only, they still won't be able to create a new quote or edit the quote itself. So that's just to give you an overview. So basically you're tying down the transactions. And of course, the same would apply that if they had access to adding a new quote and a new order and you had read-only delivery and invoice, it means that they couldn't bring or copy that order onto a delivery or onto an invoice once the delivery is read-only or the invoice is read-only, for example. So really it just de-risks accidental edits and just ties down those transactions even further from a permissions point of view. So just maintaining the data at all times, and I guess that's just another layer of permission again for the users across the board. Next up, we have template bombs. So a template bomb was introduced basically and very simply in order to be able to define some form of sales kit. So this is where you have a master template with a number of components that are sold on to your customers. And of course, you want to be able to make sure that those components at some point in time may be interchangeable. So maybe the template might contain 10 components. They get returned to your sales order, and then when you've brought them into the sales order, you might decide to remove one of those from the order itself or swap it out for another item. And of course, then you have the flexibility once it's been returned onto the transaction to swap out those products if and when needed. So the whole point around the template bomb is just structuring that template, making it reusable across every sale, saving time because you're just structuring it once as well. You're creating that master template. You will have the ability as well to create those templates by importing them using our BOM importer, which is our WISE app. In terms of the pricing and how the structure works for pricing, well, very simply, that's down to if you have priceless price, but ultimately if you have a special price, so if you have saved special prices against that particular customer for those particular items, of course, the special price is always going to be used first instead of the priceless price itself. What makes a difference to that as well is, of course, if you decide to show or hide the parent item. So if you look at the screen there, what I've done there, just even with the new sales kit. So you can see there up at the top in the middle, we have item types template. Then further on down, we have a tab called template. So very similar to what you've seen on the bill of materials tab. But you can see there's a lot of things that are missing because it's not necessary. We have a toggle option there to include the parent item. So that's where the new sales kit itself, the name of that or the title for that particular template can be shown or hidden on the transaction itself. If you show the parent item, it will list the template item and all of the components below that, and it will display a price for the actual template line itself. So that price might be the overall price for the template, and that will be taken from the priceless price for that particular template. If you decide to hide the parent item, each of the components will be displayed, and the price displayed will be either the priceless price for that customer for those items or a special price if one exists. Because of course, the special price is always takes precedence to the priceless price, if that makes sense. And I'll show you exactly what we mean by that when we have a look at that on the live presentation. But it's a great way to build specific product configurations and have them readily available to sell as and when you need them. And as I've said, that even when those components are returned to your transaction, they're the same as any other transaction line once they've been returned, for example, to your sales order screen. So you can reorder them, you can delete them, whatever it is that you need to do with those components, for example. Or if, for example, you're waiting for something to come into stock, you can part ship, part deliver. So from there, you can take further control on the sales document itself. So really what we're doing is we're letting you build out the kit, build out the template, return it to the document, and then you can take it all from there. And of course, it doesn't stop there with the Artemis release. We've So many other great features that we've also delivered on Monday morning, and I would urge you obviously to take a look at those, in particular around the custom fields. We've introduced 2 new types, which we ourselves are absolutely loving, being in place since Monday, being able to populate a link data type. So this is where when you go into your settings, custom fields, for any of your objects, you can now add a link data type field or a price data type field. The link will allow you to record a URL. And of course, that's going to be clickable from either your transaction or your master data, wherever you have set that link up against. And then the price one, the price data field, is simply just going to allow you to put in a value with decimal places. So another nice, great value add against your custom field options. The item groups itself, we've simply just moved the location. So if you're looking for that now at the moment in settings, module settings, you will see that we've now moved location to finance and banking. We've introduced an improved UI just to make it easier for you to read all of the item group information across in grid format, that you can see all the GL account determinations defined nice and clearly, and of course you can edit each of those lines as and when required. And of course there is an option there to create a new item group within the grid, but it's a whole new improved UI, so do take a look at that. For our expense settings, and this is specific to our Ireland localization, this is on the subsistence on expenses. We have opened up this subsistence type table. That is, it was currently tied down to a specific set of subsistence types. Now you can simply add on a new one or edit an existing one and change the rates out if necessary. So that's the Irish localization. And then last but not least, the resource planner. We've enabled you to increase or decrease the column width when using the timeline view options within the calendar. So that's where you've defined to use the different timeline views on the resource planner. You can now increase or decrease the column width. Just again, another nice little simple UI and visual so that you can see more compact view of the resource planner. Let's say it's over a particular day, and particularly around anybody utilizing the production module. It's a great way to look at what's been assigned to the current day and what's been assigned to the different time segments within that particular day or week, for example. So lots delivered, lots of wonderful value. And what I'd like to do now, of course, is, as always, is to dive in and do a live demonstration. So just bear with me as I switch over screens for you there now. And we'll take a look at all of these wonderful additions that have come into place. And I've actually landed here on the service calls grid. So we'll go with this. This is nice and simple. So here's a service call that I've already added today, 243. And I'm just going to drill into that. And look, this may contain a series of activities or whatever, but I'm just going to let you see here the basis of the service call itself and what information it contains. We can see the stock item that's linked to it, the user, the service contract, etc., and the call details. So now under my actions menu, so this applies to whether we have an open or a closed service call. So we can simply click on actions. We can click on this button here to create a follow-up call. So this opens up a new service call with all of the same information populated. I've got my customer, I've got my stock item, I've got my SLA, I've got my service contract. I've got all the same information automatically coming across, including not limited to, of course, the subject, start date, origin, problem types, all of the above. And as I mentioned, the assigned user, etc. And of course, this is the point where I can change the information if I require. And maybe if I want that start date, which I did mention earlier, well, what if I wanted that to be a reminder for something to happen in a week's time? I can change that start date for a week ahead, for example. And of course, the details, if I need to add any further details as to why this follow-up call is necessary, I can put all that information in now, as always, populate my custom fields. And of course, if I need to schedule that in for a technician and I need to change that primary technician, I can also do that now, as we know we can do when we're adding a service call ordinarily. So what I am going to do here is I'm just going to say that this is in fact a follow-up, and I'll just leave it at that just for now, and we can leave it at today's date. It doesn't matter, or I can set that, for example, for Friday. And what I might also do is we can just see their scheduled start date, and we'll just bring that to Friday as well. And we'll pop it in the calendar as well, for example. We'll just assign that. Perfect. So now let's save the follow-up service call. And the first thing you'll see once we have it saved, I'm not going to email it, that's fine. Just have my auto email switched on. Okay, the duration in seconds. I have the 27th, the 27th. Okay, might be something on the schedule. Yes, of course it is. It's something on the schedule. So let me just bring that there. And yeah, that should be fine now. There you go. Just cut out on the timings there. Perfect. Now let's just save that and no to that. Okay, super. So what you can now see, this is the newly created call 244, but the first thing I can see here is it's linked to service call 243. I've got a way back already. So I can clearly see that that's been linked. I can see my new subject here, the follow-up that I've populated as well. And of course, if I click here on 243, it's going to bring me back into the original call. If for any reason I create a chain of follow-ups, I can very simply, I've mentioned already about the whole relationship map. So very simply, I can come in here to actions, see the follow-up map, and I can go, okay, great, right, okay, there's a series of calls here. Why have they been created? Where is the original call? And I can see the original call is the one here on the bottom, so 243, and there is the follow-up then on the top, 244. So already I can see the relationship between the different service calls. So just another great way to improve relationships between service calls. And of course, this is something ourselves that we're going to be using in-house. We manage all our service calls through the services module ourselves. So this is going to be something of great value to us as well going forward. But we hope this will bring something of value to you as well with managing the service calls even further and even better. Okay, so as I've mentioned, do that on open or closed service calls. Okay, let me jump over into the items and let you have a quick look at the template bomb that I mentioned as well. So I have my filter down here on that new sales kit, the one that you saw already on the slide. So I'm just going to drill in to show you what was done in relation to that particular template. So I'll edit it as well for you just to show you where everything is picked up. So this is you creating the template bomb on the first instance. So the item type is what controls what this particular template or master template is. So this is the template here. One thing I would like to say to you at this point in time is that the template item itself, or the template master template, is in fact a non-stock item. So for stock purposes, this itself is non-stock. Every component, of course, can be stock, non-stock, whatever it is that you need to make up the particular kit itself. One thing it can't be is a template cannot be a template of itself, so it can't be a bomb within a bomb. So a template cannot be a component within a template. So as you can see here, I've got 4 simple items. I've got various quantities for those particular items as well that I want to include as part of this template bomb. This is the toggle button that I mentioned about having the parent item switched on or switched off. I'm going to leave it off for now. And of course, if I want to add additional bombs to this, as I've mentioned already, you can do it manually here, or I can build them out using the bomb importer Wise app. So let's just come out of that and we'll just go into a sales order so that you can see how this will populate on screen. So we don't have the parent item currently showing. And one thing I do want to mention is that I do have special prices defined for the customer that I'm going to use. So let me just go into an item invoice. Let me just select my customer and let me just select my sales kit. There we go. So the difference here is that when you get to the Wise panel, it looks slightly different. And straight away I can see that all I'm actually seeing here on screen, because this is a component bomb, which is what it is, a template bomb, Where the parent item is not displayed, each individual item makes up the overall order cost. Very simply, we're going to list a unit price for each of the components. So we don't see a price here at this point in time, we just get the quantity. So I can increase the quantity. I can also view the components here as well. So this is just going to show me exactly what this template is made up of. And of course, clearly tells you the stock levels are based on the warehouse assigned within the BOMs, whatever you've defined within the template as the source warehouse for each of those components. That's where it's going to be pulling the quantities for if they are an actual stock item. So let's just add the item then to the order just so that you can see the lines being populated here on screen. So let me just scroll on down. And if we see there's the 4 components. And you can see there's a unit price returned. I did put in a quantity of 2, so it has automatically multiplied the component quantities by that original quantity from the WISE panel. But now those 4 lines returned are 4 standard product lines that I can now move, remove, part deliver, whatever it is I need to then carry out from there on with that particular order. So it makes it nice and simple then to work with. So the template's configured, return it to the document, and then you can take it directly from there. So nice and simple. Okay, let me just cancel that there for the moment. And now that we're in the sales menu, I'd like to show you here really quickly on the user settings. Let me just come over here to myself on the read only. So currently I have access to creating all the different transactions, and I'm going to show you how, and if I tied this down, what this will look like. So I'm actually going to remove my ability to create a sales delivery, a sales return, a sales invoice, a sales credit note. So I'm going to remove those here on my sales menu. So I've switched on the read only. It's off for sales quotes and orders. I can create a quote, I can create an order. Okay, let me just save that. And update. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Okay, I'm just going to make sure, let me just wait for that to loading permissions. Okay, just making sure you can see there, delivery, return, invoice, credit note, reserve invoice, all switched to read only. So we come in now to the sales menu. This is instant once this has been set. If I come to my quotes, I can see there I can create a new quote. The same with an order, I can create a new order. And what I want to show you next, that if I drill in to an open order, I see that I have all my buttons as I would normally have to follow, notifications, share, actions, all of the above. There's one thing that's missing here, it's copy to. So this is an open order. Normally I would be able to copy to delivery, invoice, reserve invoice, etc. And I actually can't because I've made that read only. The only thing I can do here is create a new sales order from this menu. So now if I go over to the deliveries tab, because we have set it to read only, I have no create button here beside the search bar. You can see that up here, no create. If I drill in to a delivery, the only button I can see, I don't see edit, I don't see share, I don't see actions, I can't do anything else with it, I can just download. The same will apply, of course, to the returns and the invoices and credit notes. So you can see how very simply this can work. So even on an invoice, I can see it, I can view it, I can't change it. But of course, I've access to quotes. So I can go back to that quote and view it and look at that further, for example. If I want to export or email or whatever, I'll still have the share button on the quote itself. So you can tie it right down on the read only by just switching that on at transaction level. So I know that's a question that people are going to ask, is that if I have something set to mine or all, how does that work? Yes, it's across the board. So even if you have it set to all, which is what I have, it just means that I can't edit mine or anybody else's transactions. You can see there, once I've tied it even down for myself, I can't edit even my own transactions. Okay, so it just applies it across the board. So nice and simple. So that's the main demonstrations so far. I mean, obviously we have the one on the WMS and the track quantity by bin. That's something I would suggest that you certainly reach out reach out to your account manager and or support if you want to have a further conversation around that, because obviously it's another level of setup and potential complexity for your organization, because all of the stock transactions have to be done within WMS itself. So that's definitely a conversation to have with your account manager about feasibility if that's something that you would like to start using. But as always, just to remind you about where everything is currently housed to take advantage of all the demonstrations around all the changes, our blogs. Have a look at that website there. It's www.enterpryze.com/our blogs. Take a look at that link. We have a link back to Artemis, and then within there you have a link as well to all the demonstrations. That's the product tours to step you through all of the changes delivered this week. And of course, our roadmap will give you a taste of what's to come over the coming months. So check that out as well. So this can be found in enterpryze.com. Click on resources to get access to all of that information. As always, we'd love your feedback. So do reach out to us and let us know how we're doing. Marketing@enterpryze.com if you want to send any feedback and let us know how we can improve in terms of these monthly webinars or anything, any ideas that you have. And I know you have access as well to the request enhancement form that you can get through the website as well. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and get using all the wonderful new features. And certainly look forward to seeing you on the next update. Thanks and take care.